Okay, I think I'm on business. Okay, this was strange. Okay, strange. Okay. It was not working for a while, but I think I'm back. If this is the first time seeing me, the stream just ended. I'm Calvin. I escaped a cult, so you don't have to. I have 44 siblings. I have a grandfather that had 13 wives. My great grandfather was one of the founding members of the cult, fundamentalist Mormon cult. And I'm the 11th child of 45. Okay. So, yeah, I'm on the previous stream. The sound suddenly cut out. I don't know if it's because I bumped the mic. So I'm just recapping a little bit because this is new for me doing streaming. This is only my second day ever doing streaming, and I want to do it more and more. I want to talk about things that I uh, have experienced growing up in the cult, leaving the cult. And this past weekend, I just spent several days back in the cult. I went there for a birthday party for a sibling, and there's just several pieces that I noticed. Like one of the things that I noticed for myself personally is uh, for a long time, I would look over my shoulder. At least that's what it felt like. It felt like I would have to look over my shoulder with what people said I was doing and things like that. And I noticed that I found myself just not caring as much. And one thing I'd mentioned already in the previous stream, I'll bring up here is just at this party, music was turned on and I just started dancing. And that seemed weird to some people. But that I would just start dancing, but I just did it anyway. Honestly, I even this right now, like I'm this is why I want to do this because me talking right now in a way that is live and without chance for editing and everything is quite uncomfortable to me. It's uncomfortable. And I want to do it more because of the discomfort that it is. Because I want to not be afraid to speak out. I don't want to be afraid of being myself and saying what I actually think and what I actually believe. And right now it is. It feels weird. Anyway, whether you're here live or watching this on a replay, I think it'd be really cool if I got some comments or questions of what people might be curious about when it comes to growing up in the cult or leaving the cult. Because I'm happy to share different things. And one of the other reasons I want to start speaking out more is to normalize it for people that are in it. Because there are several people that are in the cult still that I get the sense are asking themselves questions of what if this is something I wouldn't really want to choose, or what if there is life outside of this structure. And I want to give some perspective for potentially giving hope to people that are inside the cult still, uh, to see, okay, yeah, maybe there is life that can happen outside of this structure. But again, it feels so scary to do because at this point in my career, in my life, I'm not uh, established yet in terms of I'm not established as a content creator. I don't have my money right. And I'm also not exactly where I want to be yet as a human being. And that has held me back from being very as open and shamelessly myself as I want to be. But I've realized where that comes from. Where that really comes from is this perfectionism that it was so big in the cult. And I want to be okay with being a human in process. I want to be okay with being a human making progress. I want to be okay not being perfect yet or ever. Like, because that's the thing is growing up, you're one of the biggest power words, control words that cults use is the word should. Everything is a should. You should do this, you should do that, you should not do that, you should not do this. Everything is shoulded. You're shoulded on. You're shoulded on by everyone. And it gets so exhausting. And I think that's one of the reasons I love my life and here in New York City is in New York, everybody just wants you to be who the fuck you are. Nobody is shooting on anybody. If anybody is, if anything, they just want you to be true to you. If that's the only should is, well, who are you? What do you actually think? What do you actually feel? What do you actually believe? Be that and let us learn from each other in that. But in the religion, uh, it was so not that. By the way, I just have to be honest. Like right now, I am so, I am trying right now to get connected to myself and say what I actually feel. And it is, I am so in my head. I am so in my head. I'm in my head about, uh, is anybody from my past going to watch this? I'm in my head about what am I going to say if I'm being poked at? I'm in my head about, uh, what's going to happen if, I don't know, if I say something that isn't quite accurate from their perspective and then they come after me. I don't know. It's so strange. Um, but I'm willing to confront it. I want to confront it. I don't want to feel, I feel like I'm entering in a new stage of freedom. I'm not physically in the cult. I'm living a life that is mine. But the next layer is getting to this place where I say shit because it's what I really think or expressing something that I really feel. And that's my anchor. My anchor isn't how it's going to be received. It's not what people are going to say about it. It's like, this is what is true for me. That's true authenticity is when I used to think that it was finding your ideal self and chasing your ideal self and who you really are. But to me, it's just being honest. It's just being completely honest with what you're actually feeling. Um, I think I've already said this, but yeah, I want to also find out what the world is curious about when it comes to growing up in a cult and leaving a cult. Because I have a lot of fragmented ideas that I could go off of right now, and I don't know how deep I want to go with this second stream. Uh, this is going to be funny to look back on in like a month or 6 months or a year, because I want to do streaming more regularly, at least see what it would feel like to do it more regularly. And I think it's just going to be fun to go back and see what it was like to just bumble and fumble. Uh, One of the ideas, the fragmented ideas, I don't know if we're going to go too deep on this, but it's something I will go deeper on with my podcast, Cultured Boy, and potentially explore with some guests, is this idea of there. When I left the cult, I thought that I was walking away from everything culty, and there are other things in culture that are culty. And maybe it's why it's even the word culture. There are cultiness in culture too. Uh, I think my last stream I mentioned how I saw a pop-up cult in New York City at the in Central Park where people were using things like shame and control to get people to give money and to participate. I'm like, that's fascinating. So I really think that there are ingredients to cultiness uh, within culture. Like they're everywhere, and it's really the somebody that like takes those ingredients and then uses them for their advantage, that where a cult can actually form. Okay. All right. If you're coming on and you're here live, I'm just I want to see. One thing I did last time when I did a stream was an ask me anything sort of thing, and I had a few questions that came on. I want to see if there's any questions that you might have to somebody that grew up in a cult and escaped a cult. Maybe what it was like to leave, what you're seeing in culture now. What would you want to ask a cult member if you got to talk to one? Because there's one right here, and so. Because I think right now with me just doing this for the first time, we're getting into streaming for the first time. I think I'm getting a little bit caught on talking about me, but I think if there's a little bit of back and forth dance, like if somebody asks something or even makes a comment about something, then I'll be able to go deeper. Because when I'm talking with my friends here in New York, like it can go on for freaking ever. We talk for, you know, sometimes hours with culture and philosophy. I was just at Washington Square Park 2 nights ago, and somebody had a sign around philosophy. And yeah, I stood and talked with people for like an hour around different philosophical points, different parts of uh, religion and how religion forms and that sort of thing. I know what some people also do is they like to play games while they're streaming. What would that be like if I just played a game while I'm streaming? I wonder if that's possible. Let's see. I'm trying to find a game right now that I'm going to play while we're streaming. An old computer game. Where is it? Where is it? Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm going to find. Okay. I'm going to try to talk and play a game at the same time just to experiment. Okay. Thank you for the question, Striker. Striker asked, "Hi from Australia." By the way, I love Australia. You're up early in Australia right now, aren't you? Australia time. It's like 1 a.m. or 1:40 right now, isn't it? Isn't it like 1 something right now? You're up super early or up super late. Was it a religious cult? Yes. Yes. So I grew up in fundamentalist Mormonism, and the thing that is most distinct with this cult that I was born in is its practice of polygamy. So my grandfather, one of the cult leaders, had 13 wives, and my dad had 4 wives. So I grew up with 4 moms, and a big part of the cult was having children because we believed that there were souls in heaven waiting to come here, and so there was a lot of kids that were being born. So I probably put it on the title, so you may know already, but I have 44 siblings. So I am one of 45 kids. I'm the 11th of 45. We all grew up in one house. So my dad, my 4 moms, and ultimately 45 of us. So 50 people roughly. That's not quite accurate because I had some siblings that were adopted out to another family, like my uncle, which that's a different conversation. That's their story to tell, probably not mine. But yeah, so fundamentalist Mormonism, it's a religion that's been around for about 200 years, secretly, privately, and I lived it my whole life, and it's all I knew. I was homeschooled, so I didn't know any different. I didn't have a lot of different things. Uh, did you leave the church when you escaped? Yes, yes. So that's what I did. Is a few years ago I escaped it, and I escaped it. People say, well, escaped. What do you mean? Did you have to like break down doors? Were you behind bars? But this is what I believe. I think the hardest things to escape are the things without walls. The hardest things to escape are the things that the things that are constraining you are invisible, because it's like shame or doubt or self censorship. So I left. It's your mindset. Yeah. Yeah. Striker Van Kelly. I can't believe you're up at nearly 2 a.m. So yeah, I sort of had to like feel my way around and feel where the walls were, the invisible walls, and started questioning everything. And then eventually made the most difficult decision of my life, which was to leave. Now, why was that difficult? Why is it difficult to leave a cult? Because it's all I knew. Like when your entire world is wrapped up in something, it's so hard to describe how terrifying it actually was to make that decision. But here's one thing I think people will recognize, why it was so scary. And this is, if anybody ever grew up religious, yes, there's the social aspect of leaving. But then there was all this incoming data from the leaders and stuff like that that said, you're going to go to hell if you misstep. So this was a big thing. This is a big thing in my cult known as the Work of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It still exists, and it's not even obviously a cult yet for most people. I left it before it's obviously a cult. Because a lot of cults, unfortunately, start off where it's not as obvious that it's a cult, and then usually it's going to be somebody down the line that does something really horrible, where the world is going to know, oh, this is actually a cult, and then it will probably, you know, morph into something else or maybe go away. But where was I? What was I just saying? Oh, the what was taught and why it was so hard to leave. The reason it was so difficult to leave is not only because my whole social life was wrapped up in it, but also because I was taught my entire life that, of course, there are sins that are worse than other sins. You shouldn't ever kill, like there's rape, murder, those sorts of things. Those are like horrible sins that you might never be forgiven of. There was one sin that was the peak sin. It was more sinful than rape and murder. And it was, if you leave the religion. If you leave the religion, that is worse than anything you can ever imagine. And now that was wrapped up in a story of like, why is that the case? Why is leaving the religion the worst thing you could ever do? Because in fundamentalist Mormonism, God does not just judge you based on your deeds and your actions. He judges you based on the cards he dealt you. So if he gave you some jewels and he gave you some truths, and then you did not make good things with those, but actually go against them, then you're kind of fucked. So one of the things that we were taught is we were given the best truths, the best uh the best diamonds ever, because we got to be born in the one true church. We were born in the one true church. So we were such good human, or not humans yet. We were such good souls in the previous existence that God let us be born in the one true church that is left of any other church on the planet. This is it. So if you were to leave that, It's basically giving a big fat middle finger to God. That's how it was viewed. So, what's going to happen to a soul that rejects the very thing that God says, "Hey, this is for you"? God was a very mean person in my upbringing. Uh, who's very much like, yeah, just a very, very, very heavy-handed, mean being. And so I was taught that if I left, if anybody left, they not only are going to go to hell, but the worst part of hell. There's a special place in hell where you're going to be. Some people will, where some hell is so bad. Actually, let me say regular hell. Regular hell is bad because you burn and you suffer for thousands and thousands of years, but eventually you just get broken up into native element. Those were the words that were used. And then you get to become another being or something like that, or you move on. But somehow you become a son of perdition. When you become a son of perdition, where you sin against the Holy Ghost or you sin against God, and you basically give him the middle finger towards what you were given, then you don't evolve, and you literally are in torment forever, forever torment. So that's why it was difficult to leave, because that terror was taught to me my entire life long from a little kid. So leaving meant I'm calling bluff on that idea. But then the question in the back of my head is well, what if I'm wrong? Stryker says, you grew up scared of God. Yeah, I can understand the sin of abandoning the church. It would have conditioned your mind. Yeah. Yeah, it was really scary to leave that. But I think what it came down to is what you just made me think of, Stryker, is I had to believe that if there really was a God, I was not going to get to him by terror and being scared to go to him. It didn't make sense to me. It also didn't make sense that, like, I knew that I was genuinely searching for what was true. Genuinely. And it didn't make sense to me that somebody else from my church could be laying on a sofa eating Cheetos, watching movies, and not actively seeking truth, and that they would be better off than somebody like me that's actually wanting to get to it. Even if I misstep and I'm wrong, I had to believe that if, like, God sees my heart and sees that I'm actually wanting to know what the truth is, even if I go about it the wrong, quote unquote, wrong way, that that it didn't make sense that I was gonna be the one that was punished the very most. What's fascinating is I am the one that's sort of being punished, at least from current members, because the more that I've been free, the more that I've spoken up about my freedom, the more it seems to trigger people that are there. So in that way, I'm like, I don't know, they're kind of fulfilling their own prophecy. Um, do you still have faith? Do you believe in God or no? Great question, Stryker. I get this question so much. This is fascinating to me because in some ways, I've been on such a journey with spirituality. In some ways, this would have felt like a contradiction with what I'm about to say years ago. This would have felt like, how is this possible? I feel like I am more spiritual and more connected to whatever spirituality is. Like, I feel like I'm connected to some like I'm part of something bigger in this life, in this universe. I'm more connected and feel more spiritual than I've ever been. And I still don't know if there's a God. Like, that doesn't mean there's not one. But I think the most honest answer that I could say is I don't know. Uh, because I think as human beings, we are storytelling machines. We are meaning making machines. And so it's easy to imagine me looking out in the world or other humans looking out in the world and trying to make sense of life itself. And life itself is massive. We're on a floating fucking ball right now, hurling through space. And we all just spawned here. We were born here. And there's so many things about it that are so huge. And so it makes sense to want to impose purpose on it and say this is where what it all came from. But the truth is, I just don't know. I don't know. And I'm okay with that. If there's a superpower that I think the cult gave me, it's the ability to withhold conclusion. Because in my upbringing, I knew everything. I knew the truth. I knew exactly where I was born. I knew where I came from. I knew where I was going. I knew what I had to do. The script was clear. I knew my role in the script. Living in my life now, I'm more open to whatever this is. I'm still evolving. I'm still learning. And what I'm really trying to do is just stay connected to reality as much as I can and take data in that way, not take data in from a narrative that people told me, or even say, oh, that makes sense. There's a lot of things that make sense that aren't true. Stryker says you should always tell your story. It's the one true thing we have. Life. That's fair enough that you don't know. That's respectful. Appreciate that. And yeah, and that's what I'm trying to do, Stryker. I'm getting goosebumps to say sharing my story because I've been feeling pulled to be open about sharing the fact that I grew up in a cult and stuff like that. But there's been several things that have held me back from talking. And one of those things is fearing the pushback from my past, fearing the pushback of family members, people that I still have love for. But I want to trust it. And in some ways, maybe that is what faith is now. Maybe what faith is now is trusting in the flow and process of life, because I have. Here's a quick thing that I think might be worth noting with how my life is different now versus when I was in the cult. When I was in the cult, you made life decisions externally. So you got it from a book, you got it from the church leaders, you got it from your parents, you got it from the teachings of fundamentalist Mormonism, you got it from the prophet. When I decided to leave, I decided to flip that because I'm like, how do I want to live my life? Do I want to live my life where I'm actually going? Because you have to prioritize something. And when you prioritize something by necessity, you are subordinating everything else. So if you're prioritizing a voice externally, then you are subordinated. If you're prioritizing that, then you're actually putting that above your own lived experience, your own guiding system. That did not feel good to me. I was like, if I don't want to be gaslit I don't want to gaslight myself where somebody says, this is what you should do. This is what you should think. This is what you should believe. And I'm like, well, I don't think that way. I don't feel that way. My lived experience is different from that. And this is in so many ways. Like there were so many that I now see as very harmful beliefs around race and sex, what it means to be a white person, a black person, a man, a woman. Like so many of those things were imposed on me. And then as I lived into and explored the world, I'm like, I wouldn't come to that conclusion about a woman or a black person or what it means to be a man based on my lived experience. And so something had to give. I had to be like, I either am going to take what I'm being told as the narrative or as the church leader and subordinate my own lived experience, or I'm going to trust my own lived experience above that. And that's what I chose. I ultimately chose, I want to live the rest of my life inside out versus outside in. Meaning I want to live it based on my own gut and my own internal guiding system. And that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm trusting. So the thing to tie back to the Stryker's comment on faith, I think my faith now is when I get something, when I'm getting an internal tug, I'm following it. I'm like jumping in the rabbit hole and seeing where it goes. Because I feel like there is an intelligence, and I don't know if I like that word, but there are these nudges, like these full body nudges, and sometimes it's full body, but sometimes it's subtle, to do something and to go somewhere and to do a thing, even if it doesn't quite make sense yet. That's how my life changed, is by following that, because it makes way more sense now why the cult is a cult. Like, as I've stepped away from it, I didn't even know that it was a cult when I left it. The only thing I had was, this doesn't feel real for me. This doesn't feel true for me. This doesn't feel right. I literally use those words. I freaking have the voice note the day that I decided to leave. I recorded it, and it took me forever to say the words. I don't know if I believe in this. It was so scary to say because of all the implications of what it would mean with family, what it would mean with my life, what it would mean with my future, what it would mean with my soul. But it wasn't clear. It wasn't obvious. And that's what's so fascinating to me. Like, it's fascinating that something in me still nudged me a certain direction, even though it wasn't clear and it wasn't obvious. And it's only as I followed through on that and took steps where I can now look back and be like, whoa, that was right. I didn't know it at the time. I mean, I didn't know for years that it was right, because leaving was fucking hard. It was the most gut-wrenchingly like, I thought it was difficult just to come to the decision to leave. But the truth is, once I did leave, it was still ridiculously difficult. Life has not been easy from leaving. It's only been the last couple of years since moving to New York City and getting to be in a world that feels aligned with who I am, which is a world of, you know, you get to explore and be yourself and not be questioned all the time. You can wear short sleeves if you want, because in my religion, you couldn't. Like, all these little things. It's only been in that where I'm finding myself, and I'm getting to look back and recognize, oh, I can see why my soul, why my human animal felt confined and constrained. But when you're in it, you don't know it. And that's what's a little bit scary. It's scary for me to look back on it and see that I was in it and didn't see it. It's also scary when I look back and see, like, I just spent, what started me doing this live is I just went back to the cult for the weekend to spend time with family and stuff, and seeing the contrast of who I am now and seeing, young family members that remind me of me and who I was, like the super proper, don't, like, there's like a stiffness of the human that I see in people and that I was. And I saw that going back there. It's just so wild to me. And again, speaking of trusting, I think that's why I'm starting to share more. I want to get back into, not back, I don't know, and maybe that's a Freudian slip. Maybe I'm getting back to being true to myself. But there's this terror I still feel about sharing what I really want to share, saying what I really want to say. In some ways, I'm worried about what some people might say. We live in the age of cancel culture. Hopefully, we're getting out of it. But some things I'm worried to share about life itself, and I'm worried to, like, what people in the outside world might think. But I'm also still terrified slightly about what some people from my past might do or say. But I want to get through it. I think that's my next layer of freedom, is being able to say, this is what I really think, this is what I really experienced, and do it anyway. Stryker says, I'm listening to you talk about the doctrines handed down to you. You'd be one in a very few people to internally question the beliefs from only intuition. Yeah. Yeah. This is what some of my friends have made me realize. Honestly, man, I am so fucking grateful for the people that I've met in the last couple of years, because quite literally, I've had to start over. I've had to start over completely. When I moved to New York City, I knew no one. I come from a family of 50 people. I had a full community. I had, I mean, I used to be married. I had a church arranged marriage and I have 2 kids. So I had all these things to keep me there. And when I moved to New York, I knew no one. And I have a small circle of really amazing humans. I've met so many amazing humans that I would have never met had I not left. But one of the things they've made me realize, and you sort of made me just think of it, Stryker, is um, I'm not the only ex-cult member. There's a lot of people that have left cults. The majority of them, though, unfortunately, leave when something is so obviously wrong that they're sort of forced to grapple with it. I didn't have that. In fact, not only did I not have that, the cult was set up for me as a guy. It's set up for me. I could be in church positions. If I was still in the cult, I'd probably have 3 wives right now. Uh, I it was set up for me, but there was just something about it that was off. And this is another thing that's interesting is like there's a lot about me that doesn't make sense to me in current culture because some I mean I see some people talk about humans have an intuition. I don't see a lot of conversation about men and their intuition. But you're right, Stryker. It was that. And what I'm learning to do is listen to that. Listen to those gut checks. Listen to my heart and see what's the right move here. It's not that I didn't use it's not that the conscious critical thinking part isn't there too. It is, but it's like becoming in partnership with all parts of me. Becoming in partnership with my head, my heart, my gut, and making sure all 3 of those things are aligned. I certainly used my head when I was exploring and like poking around and looking at other religions and looking at the belief systems that my church taught and looking at what I really felt. But when it came to decision time, it was all gut. It was all gut and heart. It was like, this just doesn't feel right. And yeah, maybe that is something why I need to speak on it. I think one of the reasons I want to start speaking more is uh, when I look out into the world, I see a lot of um I'm just gonna say it. I I hesitate only because I love people so much. I love people so much. I believe in people so much. I believe in humanity so much. I didn't at some like I used to like I literally grew up not believing in humanity. I grew up thinking that everybody was wrong and everybody was evil. And the more that I've met people and I've had one-on-one conversations with people all around the world, uh, I really believe in the human spirit. And like in a strange way, even myself, I sort of zoom out of the person that I am and be like, dude, I'm part of humans. Like that is so cool that I'm part of humans because it was the human spirit that I didn't choose it. I was like born with it that made me question and get me connected to my intuition and to follow through on that and start creating a life that's pretty cool. I'm like, I'm so fucking lucky that I have that. And I think every human has it. So with that said, this is what I was hesitating on and why I want to speak out more. I look out into the world and I see the world is a little bit culty. The world is a little bit culty. The world itself. There's a lot of people online on Twitter, like people are arguing with each other saying, you shouldn't do that, or you shouldn't do this. You should think that, or you shouldn't think this. But I think there is so much magic in the individual person that we all are. When you get to this place where you're just committed to being true to what you really think, true to expressing what you really feel. I think that's where connection comes from. I think the connection that we all want doesn't come from conforming. It doesn't come from It doesn't even, this is going to sound strange. It doesn't even come from being peaceful or harmonious necessarily. I think it comes from being real. I think it comes from being true. My deepest connections that I've had to my friends are when we are just being so honest with each other, even if it's different honesties, and then maybe seeing commonality in that honesty. And so even though it's scary to say what I think and what I feel, I want to do it more. I want to actually say, no, this is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm feeling. I know it's going to piss some people off. My life already does. My life already does piss off a lot of people from my past. Like I haven't even talked about the cult very much. I've only shared my experience of living in it and leaving it, but I've had a lot of heat from it. And I know that talking more, I'm going to receive more heat. But I want to do that. And yes, because it's going to help people, but here's my selfish reason for it. I want to be free. And I am free. Like I feel like I've made it in a way, even before I'm financially set, because I'm willing to recognize where I have the ability to make a decision and to take a step. And I think that's what freedom is. Freedom isn't something that you're acquiring. It isn't something that somebody grants you. It's something you recognize that you already have. And in some ways, I hold myself back with my thoughts, with what I really feel. And I want to start exercising that freedom, just because I don't want to feel confined like I can't. And I also want to have faith or trust that if I do, that it might help somebody or it might make me expand even more. I don't know. Just there's faith in living according to oneself. Yeah. Yeah, we're in this live. And I'm about 15 minutes beyond what I was going to do on here. So I'm going to probably start coming in for a landing here and start wrapping this live because this live stream, because I'm wanting to do this more. I'm wanting to just see what people are curious about. And I find it fascinating. Even this, like we live in such a crazy cool time. Like the fact that Stryker is up at 2:09 in Australia and I'm at 12:09 p.m. here in New York City, and that human beings can connect on that level. I just find that ridiculously fascinating. And I think there is such potential, latent potential with human beings to see each other in ways we've never seen each other by not looking at just the narratives that we all tell, not just studying the doctrines that we all created, not studying even belief systems, but just hearing each other's true honesty. I've had such amazing conversations from homeless people to nuns to artists and celebrities, and like so many amazing, rich, like it helps me conversations just through complete human honesty. So if I want that, I mean, what did Gandhi say? I'm not trying to become some Gandhi or whatever, but didn't he say like, be the change that you want to see in the world? And so I think that's why I want to do this. I want to start being more honest. Not that I've been necessarily dishonest, but I've been quiet. And there are people that I think when they see somebody else in their authenticity or their honesty, it gives them permission to do the same thing. Stryker says, nice to meet you. My cat had 4 kittens. Oh, that's awesome. I like authentic conversations, but you're investing as an individual. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, Stryker, you must be tired. So hopefully you can go to bed soon. That's really cool that you have 4 kittens. I grew up with so many cats. Cats is what we grew up with on a farm. So I grew up on a farm, and we started with 2 cats. There were 2 cats, and then they were both male. And then somehow a female cat got on our property. And then at the biggest point, we had like 50 cats. We had as many cats as we had people on our farm. There were so many. So I know all about kittens and stuff like that. We loved it every single time we had more kittens that were born. Uh, so yeah, I love cats. That's cool that you have them. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up just because I wanna do it again. I'm gonna plan on doing live streaming again tomorrow, maybe around the same time. So if you're here watching this live, thank you. Thanks for the conversation, Striker. If you're watching this on any replay, thank you so much. And let's keep the conversation going. If anybody has any questions or comments, I'm going to be reading every single comment that I can, any single question I can as of now, because I want to do this more. I feel like this is what I'm supposed to do. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to trust it, see where it leads. So wherever you are in the world, thank you for watching, and see you next time.